Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins here. We got a special report for you today. Have you ever heard of the Oumuamua? Well, it made news about 3 years ago in regards to a celestial object that came into our solar system, and scientists from Harvard were amazed by it, including physicists and astronomers across the planet. We have for you a special report via Jaime Maussan, who has just interviewed Avi Loeb, the former Harvard physicist astronomer who claimed the Oumuamua could be some kind of derelict spacecraft, a craft that has possibly extraterrestrial implications. We're going to break it down. We've got the whole panel today. We have Alex Gershowitz, including Gufon, and Doc Skinner from 1028 Productions, and Dr. J from Dr. J Radio Live, including Michael from Dark Hour Paranormal, and my twin brother Brent Cousins. So buckle up, everybody. The Oumuamua, the mystery, the enigma. Let's get to it.
That's very exciting. Why did you decide to write about this subject?
Well, one reason is that I don't find a lot of intelligence here on Earth, and I'm looking at the sky, perhaps there. But the real reason is there was an object discovered in 2017 in October that looked nothing like we have seen before. It was the first object that was spotted near the Earth from outside the solar system, what we call an interstellar object. And it was discovered by a telescope in Hawaii, and the name that was given to it is Oumuamua, which means a scout in the Hawaiian language.
All right, so let's get it started and take it out to former physicist, retired software engineer, Alex Gershowitz. Alex, what do you think of Avi Loeb's statements?
Hi, Brent. Hi, Blake. And thank you to Jaime for having a great interview with Avi Loeb. So, I've met Avi on several occasions, and I can tell you a couple of things. He's a very serious scientist, and he's a really nice guy. But he is a serious scientist, and we should listen to what he says. I haven't read his book. I haven't gotten it yet. I will read it, though. The information that he presents, however, during the interview is pretty cogent. And in fact, I agree with him with everything he says, even to the point where we should be careful not to throw things away because they may be coming from civilizations that don't exist anymore.
And at first, astronomers thought it's probably a comet, but it didn't have any cometary tail, no gas around it. And then as it was spinning around, it looked as if it changes the amount of reflected sunlight by a factor of 10. So it was at least projected on the sky, at least 10 times longer than it is wide. And then the best model for the changing light from it was that of a flat object, not cigar-shaped the way we saw in some cartoons, but actually pancake shape. And most intriguingly, the object was pushed by an extra force in addition to the force of gravity that the sun was exerting on it. And this force declined with distance, as inversely as distance squared. And the only thing I could think of is that it's because of reflected sunlight.
Based on conclusion on a couple of factors. One of them was the shape of the object, that it was flat like a pancake. And the other was that nobody could figure out how that object was formed. I just read that last April, two astronomers from California published a paper outlining how Oumuamua could be formed, and concluded that, and theorized that there could be millions of these things. And I think most astronomers now believe that the thing was oblong like a cigar, not flat like a pancake. So, having said all that, as Avi said, until we get a picture of one of these things and conclusively figure out that it's not a rock, then it's whatever it was. And, I agree with Avi. Thanks.
Interesting thoughts there, Alex, and it's interesting the background and some of the relationship that you had with Avi in the past. Incredible stuff. Now let's take it out to Gufon. Rich, what do you got? What do you think of Avi's statements?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, Avi Loeb, back in the news, talking to Jaime Maussan. And we got the entire interview, and it was dubbed in English for us. So I wanted to talk about his frustration with the community, with other scientists. He's talking to these other colleagues of his, and they're like, I wish I never heard of Oumuamua. And he's like, why? And they would say, because I don't know what it is.
When did you decide to say this was extraterrestrial? You needed a lot of courage. I mean, in your field, that's very dangerous.
Well, yes, but I don't do that calculation. I don't have any footprint on social media because I promised my wife when we got married that I will not have any account on Twitter, Facebook, and so forth. And I don't care how many likes I have on social media. I just focus on the evidence. And just like basketball coaches tell their team members, keep your eyes on the ball, not on the audience. And the ball here is the evidence, and it looks very unusual. And I call it an anomalous object, something that shows anomalies. And whenever I see anomalies in science, I try to explain them as something different from what we have anticipated. And the same here. And I don't care if other people don't follow that or ridicule it. It doesn't really matter. If we had evidence that shows that I'm wrong, I would accept it.
Just look at the evidence. They're afraid to talk about this evidence, and that's what's frustrating to him. That's why he wanted to come out. You know, hopefully other scientists will follow, but he's saying that it is what it is. And that's that. Just like Galileo. He figured out that the sun is the center. You know, everything in the solar system goes around the sun. The earth goes around the sun. And they jailed him for it because they didn't want to believe it. They didn't even look in Galileo's telescope. They just figured, well, we know what we know, and that's that. And that's what he's talking about today with Oumuamua.
Absolutely, Rich. It's so amazing that there's so many questions and not enough answers in regards to Oumuamua. Now let's take it out to Doc Skinner from 1028 Productions. Doc, what do you got?
Avi Loeb said, quote, "The scientific community's prejudice or closed-mindedness, however you want to describe it, is particularly pervasive and powerful when it comes to the search for alien life, especially intelligent life. Many researchers refuse to even consider the possibility that a bizarre object or phenomenon might be evidence of an advanced civilization." Avi Loeb, director of the Harvard Astronomy Department. That quote right there alone makes me just want to ask why. So I want to ask all of you, why is it that scientists and researchers are so afraid to acknowledge this, yet announce finding, thousands and thousands of new planets and solar systems out there, but naively believing that we are still just the only thing out there?
Well, many astronomers try to explain it as a comet, as you said, as an asteroid. They are not willing, by any chance, to say this is an extraterrestrial thing.
Well, I can tell you a story. There was a seminar at Harvard University about Oumuamua, and when it ended, I left the room together with a mainstream astronomer that worked on rocks in the solar system for decades. And he said to me, "This object is so weird. I wish it never existed." And to me, that was appalling, because as a scientist, you should accept all the evidence that nature gives you.
To be dismissive of these facts and this research that has come out, showing that we're not alone. What is it that makes people so afraid to acknowledge what is right in front of us?
Absolutely, Doc. A lot of questions, and we need answers behind this. This phenomenon, this Oumuamua, this celestial object, in my opinion, from what Avi says, it is extraterrestrial in origin. Now, let's take it out to Dark Hour Paranormal. Michael, what's your thoughts?
What an absolutely fantastic interview conducted by Jaime Maussan with Avi Loeb. Now, the content of this interview naturally goes around Oumuamua, as Avi Loeb has just written a book to really detail this particular anomaly. Now, this is interesting because earlier today I stumbled across an article about Oumuamua, which seemed to be very current, and essentially at the core of this article, they were talking about many of the things that Avi brought up in the interview. For example, these strange anomalies that go in the way of Oumuamua that we don't see in other familiar objects such as asteroids or comets.
You're not supposed to dismiss it. We know it from the days of Galileo Galilei that argued that the Earth moves around the sun. And the philosophers back then were sure that the sun moves around the Earth. And they refused to look through his telescope. They put him in house arrest. And all that did was maintain their ignorance. The Earth continued to move around the sun. Reality stays, whatever it is, irrespective of whether we ignore it. And it's really unfortunate that the scientific community regards the possibility that we are not the smartest kid on the block, that there are other technological civilizations out there. It regards it as a speculation.
Now, just to comment on the shape itself, it's very thin, and of course we've observed this over some time now. It's not a natural shape for what asteroids or comets are, and there's no gas or dust trail behind. So this object is clearly not exactly what we think it is on first glance. Now, another thing that people have always asked is, how is this object moving? Was there some propellant in the past that caused it to continue on its track, or is there something else at play? Now, this again was in the article that I read earlier today, but Avi mentioned reflected sunlight being the extra propellant, sort of like the sail on a boat, the way the wind moves through. And we've actually used this technology in some of our work, but now we're seeing it existing in a natural form. And to me, that makes perfect sense.
Interesting stuff there, Michael, and I'm glad you were able to chime in on this. The subject matter in regards to the Oumuamua is amazing. Let's take it out to my twin brother, Brent. Your thoughts on this?
Thanks, Blake. Let me tell you what happened about 6-8 months ago. We reached out to the local observatories right here on our island, the big island of Hawaii. And we reached out to Keck and Canada, France personally. And guess what? We got feedback directly from them personally, and they said they would be happy to do an interview on the Oumuamua and their discovery. So we kind of created a questionnaire. I think we did about 12 to 15 questions that we wanted them to answer, kind of a rebuttal to Avi Loeb's claims that what we're looking at is a celestial extraterrestrial object rather than it just being a chunk of rock or a comet. So we gave them the questions and they were happy about it. They said, okay, these are good questions. And then they gave us all the questions written out and we're saying, this is fantastic. You ready for the interview? And they said, yes, let's do it. So within hours of the interview, we had everybody all set, camera crew and everybody else, and then we get a last minute call from Keck and they told us, you can't use anything that we just talked about. They told us not to use any of the questions that they answered and we did not have permission to share it. We're like kind of taken aback about this whole thing and kind of discouraged, us being just island residents right here on the Big Island and our close proximity to these observatories and their astronomers. So with this kind of negative feedback, we kind of took it personally. We're like, why would they not want to share the questions that we asked them? I'm thinking there's some sort of cover up by Canada, France, and Keck. They want to keep this kind of on the down low. They don't want anything kind of alien brought into the subject of this discovery. They want to just kind of pass it off as some sort of comet or meteor, which I believe Avi Loeb nailed it on this. He's absolutely right that what we're looking at is some sort of alien scout ship. Again, why would this be called the Oumuamua and dubbed in the Hawaiian language as a scout ship, where a scout ship needs to be observed by something. It's traveling to look and find something. So I'm gonna give Avi Loeb a big thumbs up for having the courage to come forward and call it the way he sees it and not being afraid of the criticism from everybody else.
Interesting to note, that's right, Brent. We reached out to some of the observatories right here on the Big Island of Hawaii to speak on behalf of what Avi said in regards to the Oumuamua, and their immediate cancellation of the interview is very disappointing. What are they trying to hide? Why no rebuttal to Avi it's a question that's still not answered. And in my opinion, from some of our interviews and discussions with these astronomers who remain silent and they don't want to come forward with some of their information, they revealed to us right here at Third Phase of Moon that there is a second anomaly that may be approaching our solar system, such as the Oumuamua. Incredible stuff coming in right here at Third Phase of Moon. Now, let's take it out to Dr. J from Dr. J Radio Live. Dr. J, what do you think of Avi Loeb's statements in this incredible interview via Jaime Maussan?
An interview between my dear friend Jaime Maussan and, of course, Dr. Avi Loeb, PhD, a professor at Harvard University, is the first person to actually label Oumuamua a possible extraterrestrial spacecraft, possibly because of the way it didn't have a tail of a comet from the ice or everything else like that. However, the biggest problem I have is why the heck don't we have a good picture of it? But Dr. Loeb suggested a brilliant idea, which I hope we implement. For the last several decades, we've been launching probes into space. And of course, as technology has gotten better, our cameras are so high definition these days. If we launch probes with 4K, 8K cameras on there, and this time, instead of waiting for something to come close to us, as it's entering the solar system, if one of these probes bypasses it, then we can take multiple pictures or even video of it.
What do you think it is? You said it's a light sail. You say it's probably trash from another civilization. What do you think it is?
Well, it's difficult to tell because we didn't get enough data. The astronomers were sure it's a rock, but there are several possibilities. The fact that it sits in the local standard of rest is really interesting because perhaps there is a grid of such objects, a population, and it's like road posts that may be useful for navigation through interstellar space. If there are spacecrafts that want to know their coordinates, they can do it relative to a grid of such systems.
This could be from another solar system that we haven't detected yet. Maybe there was a collision, billion years ago and this thing just got here. Or it's an alien craft and it just happened to be passing through. Now, whether it was programmed to come this way or not, nobody will ever know unless it comes back and we can get some more evidence. But scientists don't seem to care about it. They're just chalking it up as a rock, an unusual rock at that. Most asteroids we see are round, weird shape, potato shaped. But this seems to spark a lot of interest with Avi because he thinks this is exactly the way another civilization would send out the message that, here we are. If you can't hear us, then you're not as advanced as we are, or, you just haven't figured it out yet, and we'll come back in another billion years. I don't know. But he's trying to figure it out. He's frustrated with the community, scientific community. They don't even want to talk about it publicly, and they should. You never know. This could be one of the few times in our history, in our lives, in our civilization, that an alien ship may have come by and we're missing the boat, for lack of a better term. Very frustrated. It's not speculation. This isn't speculation. The data is the data. The evidence is the evidence. And it's weird, and it doesn't make sense. And what Avi Loeb is saying, he thinks it could make sense, and that this just might be a probe of some intelligent origin. That would be great. Hope he's right.
And then I want to ask, why, scientists and researchers, why are you in fear of acknowledging and researching this publicly? Because you're afraid of losing your job. Okay, I get that. But if you're smart, ask the question, why are the people above you wanting you to be in fear? Why are they suppressing this? Why are they being dismissive of all this? This is the questions I want to know. And I think many other people out there want to know. Why can we not openly acknowledge, like this fine gentleman, Avi Loeb from Harvard Astronomy Department. I mean, that's a big deal. And then we have the Israeli general who announced that, you know, we're not alone. Why are the powers at be suppressing this? That is what I am asking. And I want to know. I want to know. We have our theories. We have what we think, you know, but I want to know why. What are the powers that be are so afraid of letting us know truth?
Another possibility may be relay stations for communication. Instead of transmitting a signal across a large distance, you may have relay stations along the way, just like we do on Earth, for cell phone reception. Or it could be a probe, or it could be just trash, something that is dysfunctional. The Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 probes, you know, in 1 billion years, there would be no use. There would be just trash floating in space. The situation is similar to going on the beach. Most of the time you find rocks and seashells that were naturally produced, but every now and then you stumble across a plastic bottle that indicates that a civilization is out there.
Now, one of the interesting things that has been highlighted in this interview was that still, even today, the scientific community at large does not want to take any leaps of faith or strange conjecture to the origin of something unfamiliar, and that I think can go across the board. This seems to be pretty counterproductive to me, at least in the way of understanding any truth, but I do understand that there is a rampant fear of academic and social reprisal. So, if we want to find any truth out about what we're really seeing, I think we need to level the ground a little bit, be very truthful with ourselves, and that extends into the scientific, archaeological communities at large. This is a fantastic interview.
And just like Dr. Loeb said, a picture is 1,000 words. And it truly is, because we really don't know what Oumuamua really looks like, other than, yes, a rocky structure that many people say is just something natural with weird, you know, slingshot moves around the sun. But however, I think if we have a picture up close and personal, that may show us a lot more. For instance, it could show us how it charges its power, maybe by sun and light and other things like that. Regardless, what we do need is pictures or a video. And I do think that's going to happen hopefully in the next few years, hopefully not decades or even centuries. I don't think it takes that long for objects to come and visit us. I think this was just the first one that people picked up on, especially Dr. Loeb. And now that Dr. Loeb is known around the world about this, and UFOs and ETs are talked about around the world, I think that this is going to be a possible NASA mission. If not, maybe a private corporation can take it up, like SpaceX, for instance. Either way, a picture is 1,000 words, and that's what we should be focusing on, to intercept the next Oumuamua type craft.
Incredible stuff coming in right here at Third Phase of Moon. And if you captured anything amazing out there, submit your UFO videos right here. My email is in the description below. Upload your UFO video to YouTube, send it to my email. We'll take a look, and who knows, it might be seen right here on the #1 UFO channel on the planet, Third Phase of Moon. I want to thank everybody who joined us, the whole panel that chimed in tonight, and the incredible live chat in this premiere. You guys rock. Everybody keep your eyes on the skies. Be safe out there. Blake Cousins. We'll see you next time.